Hello, everyone. If you are using a novel or a composition book or a pre-made book, a blank book for your glue book, there's a couple things you might want to keep in mind before you start. If you're using a book like this as a glue book, you are usually gluing images to the front and the back of every page. So you're thickening the pages up by a lot. A book that normally would hold 100 pages, now with all the images glued in, that book is trying to hold about 300 pages. Sometimes the spines break, they're not happy, and a lot of times the book is so full that you can't even close it, not even close. So thinning out a book is a great way to start using a book for a glue book. Thin out your pages first and then glue images to the pages, okay? If you're using a composition book, you want to make sure you've got a stitched composition book. They are stitched down the center. If you don't see the stitches, the threads, the holes for the stitches, if you don't see that, you might have a glued composition book. They're not as strong. If you glue things onto the pages of a glued book like a magazine or even a novel or a composition book, you're putting a lot of stress on the pages, and they can come away from the glue. So you'll have loose pages. They'll come right out of the page of the book. There's not a lot you can do at that point. You can try to use tape them back into the book, or try to run a bead of glue down the spine and try to put your pages back into that glue, but there's no guarantee that the pages will stay. You can tip them in another book or the same book, but the glued bindings just aren't as strong as a sewn binding. So composition books are great for glue books. With only one signature, they fatten up really nicely. They do have very thin pages, but you're adding images to the front and to the back. That will thicken up your page a lot. You don't really need to glue pages together unless you really want to, okay? When you are thinning out pages of a stitched book, you want to, this one is one that is also stitched, and you can usually identify stitched by if there's no glue or there's very little glue at the spine here. And this one has barely any glue at all. And you can see the folded signatures. So I go to the center of one of those signatures. Let's see if we can find, show you what the center looks like. Okay. If you look at the signature and see that the pages are folded in half, you can open them up where the middle is, like that, and you can usually see the stitches, like that. When you see stitches, like I said before, you want to thin out your pages, and I really like to use books that are stitched. This is one page. It was one single piece of paper that's folded in half to create the signature. So I usually don't do anything with those. I usually do the next page. If I were to tear this out, I want to make sure that I have the other side of the page torn out as well. If you only tear out one side of the page, and you start gluing your images, doing whatever you want to onto the page. There's nothing on this side anchoring that page in. You've already taken out the other side of the page. So with a little bit of stress and a little bit of anything, eventually that page will just fall out because there's nothing holding it into the book. So I usually start with the center page and make sure that I take out 1 or 2 pages from every signature. All right? And that's how I thin down a stitched book. Now, I was going to use this as an altered book. I love the images in here, and I thought that it was stitched, but when I looked at it more closely, I saw a bunch of glue at the spine there. And I got suspicious, and I can't see the signatures, so I was looking like crazy. This is a glued book. I was going to use it, but I don't want to take the chance that my pages are going to fall out. So I am thinking twice about using this book. I'm going to try to find something else to use. So I was looking around and I found this one. And again, you don't see much glue. And when you look inside of this one, you don't see stitches like the other one, but you do see this very, very large stitch, and you see where the stitches are. This is an industrial, extra strong stitching method that some book makers use. What they're doing is they're stitching through the signatures on the side here before they put the cover on. This is this would be a very strong book for a glue book. So you probably you could tear pages out of here. You wouldn't have to necessarily worry about the second page because they're all pretty sewn in there pretty securely. So that is just something to look out for. So another way to thin out pages, and I'm going to show you this one. This is just a little novel that I started doing. Some people like to glue pages together. And take some pages out. It really does thin a book down really, really well for a glue book or even an art journal. So what I do is, this is a page that I'm going to glue to another page. So I push that aside. I'm going to take out 2 pages here. I'm going to use a metal ruler because it works really well. And I am going to rip the pages against that ruler. And I'm just going to leave just a little bit of the page. That way, if there is another part of that page somewhere in the book, it has an anchor still. It's going to stay in the book. But I don't have to figure out where the other side of that page is. And then I'm going to glue this page to this page, which hides that little torn stubby thing there, okay? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to glue this page to this page, and I'm just going to use a glue stick. So I glue down that little tab there. Make sure there's glue underneath that. And I make sure that I have glue. You can use any kind of glue you want. If you want to use a matte medium or something, just keep in mind that it may wrinkle your pages. Glue stick is a little bit drier, so it won't wrinkle so much. You want to get glue on the entire page, and you really want to make sure you have glue on the edges and the corners. Okay? And then put down the page that you want to glue together. Start from the ditch here. Make sure that it is exactly where you want it. And press it together, going to the outside. Make sure it's well pressed together and it's well glued together so it'll stay together. And then you have removed a couple of pages and made your page stronger if that's what you want to do. So I would go through the entire book, gluing the pages together, taking out 2 or 3 pages in between, and that will thin out your book a lot so that you can put as much stuff in there as you want to and not worry about a spine that's going to break. All right, I hope that was understandable. If you have any questions, I will reply to the comments in the comments below. So just ask your question. And I think that's everything. Thanks for watching.